This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Hello and welcome to the second MLB Draft episode here on the Orioles on the Verge podcast feed. Nick Stevens here today to talk about one of my favorite sporting events on the entire calendar, the MLB Draft, and the 2025 MLB Draft approaching very quickly. Just a couple of weeks left in the NCAA regular season, conference tournaments right around the corner, NCAA regionals right around the corner. The MLB Draft will be here before we know it. And for those of you who have been following along all season, thank you. I have had a weekly piece up on our Substack, oriolesontheverge.substack.com, putting down my thoughts and observations about a group of potential draft picks every Monday or Tuesday morning, each weekend taking 2 or 3 series, sitting down and enjoying college baseball all weekend, watching those series and focusing particularly close attention to the draft eligible prospects in each of those series, finding all the data that I can get my hands on, putting together some video clips, putting all of that into these articles. It's been a lot of fun to dive into this draft class, even more so than in years past, and it's getting anxious for the end of the season so we can have a little bit more free time, but also kind of sad to see this NCAA season already winding down. This coming Tuesday, in a couple of days, this podcast should be released Sunday morning. So Tuesday over on our Substack, I will have looks at LSU and Louisville. They're 2 of the top programs that I have yet to watch this season. So look out for that on Tuesday morning. I have a link in the show notes of this episode to our Substack where you can subscribe directly. We're approaching 500 subscribers already, and we just started pumping out regular weekly content back in November. So thank you to everyone who has subscribed, and a special thank you to all of those who are paying subscribers over there. I've also linked my first draft show I did last month. If you haven't listened to that episode, I highlighted 15 names on that first draft episode. Some of them guys like Dallas Baptist, right-handed pitcher Micah Bucknam, Florida State's Alex Lodis, Georgia Tech's Kyle Lodis, yes, the Lodis cousins, and USC pitcher Caden Hunter, and a couple of others have really become even more fun names after their dominant seasons have continued. So check that episode out if you haven't already. For this month's episode, I'm going to highlight 10 more of my favorite college prospects based on my viewings in the month since the last episode. And again, these aren't just going to be first or second round options for the Orioles. That's not how we do things here. I've got some potential options at picks 19, 30, 31, but also some senior signs with some very real upside, and some possible later round options of intrigue as well. And let's start off with number one of my favorite bats in this entire draft class, and that is Arkansas outfielder Charles Davalin. And I believe I did make a quick note on Davalin at the end of the first draft episode because he stood out the most when I watched Arkansas earlier this year, but his eye-popping start to the year has continued, and his draft stock is skyrocketing ever since then. Davalin is a draft-eligible sophomore, a Florida Gulf Coast transfer where the data looked good and the bat looked good at Florida Gulf Coast, but it has looked even better now that he is in the SEC and has become one of the more prominent bats in this Arkansas lineup. Through 43 games, and I am recording this before this past weekend series, so numbers will not be updated with this weekend's games. But through 43 games, Davalin has 210 plate appearances. He's hitting .378 with a 133 WRC plus. And here's what's most impressive. He has 12 home runs on the year, 2 more than he had all of last year in 276 plate appearances. He has just 13 strikeouts on the season. So 12 home runs to 13 strikeouts at any level is pretty unbelievable, but doing it in the SEC is on another level. He's listed at just 5'9" and 190 pounds, but he packs a powerful punch at the plate. There's been a lot of discussion lately about his adjustments in the box as he's lowered his hands, largely cut down on the leg lift he had, and it's led to a big season against top competition, the top competition he's ever faced. According to Baseball America recently, Davalin's bat speed has increased. His average exit velo is up from 86 miles per hour to 88 miles per hour, and he has a max EV north of 110 miles per hour this season. He has an in-zone contact rate of 93% and an overall contact rate of 91%, and he's chasing at just a 20% clip. The power is very real. It's pull side damage from the left side of the plate. The swing decisions are very good. He's primarily an outfielder, but we know the Orioles love their positional versatility, and Davlin does have experience at second base and in the dirt. Could he join Heston Kjerstad and Tavian Josenberger as Arkansas outfielders turned Orioles prospects? I am hoping and praying that Charles Davlin becomes a Baltimore Oriole. And number 2, let's look at Arizona outfielder Brendan Summerhill. I have serious doubt that Summerhill will be available when the Orioles pick at 19, but we've seen a lot of injuries among college outfield class. We've seen some real struggles by others who had high first-round grades coming into the season. We've seen the very good and the very bad with Texas A&M's Jace Laviolette, who seems to be surging at the right time again. He's on a home run tear this last week or so. I would prefer that the draft happens tomorrow just so I can finally see how this college outfield class shakes out. Do teams decide to buy the dip on some guys? I have no idea, but I love this class, and I'm very curious to see what happens. But in case Brendan Summerhill is there and the Orioles grab him, Summerhill is a very fun name to know. He is a 6'2" left-handed hitting junior outfielder. He's been limited to just 24 games thus far because of a hand injury he suffered around a month ago against West Virginia. But he homered as soon as he returned to the field the other day, so he's picking right up where he left off. Again, smaller sample size here, and you need to note that he's missed most of conference play thus far as well. But he is hitting .417 with 6 doubles, 6 triples, 3 home runs, and a 16% walk rate compared to an 11% strikeout rate. Some outlets have an average grade on the hit tool. Some have it as a potential plus hit tool with above average power and above average speed. Although the speed has been effective in center field, he's a really good athlete. He hasn't been a great base stealer in his career. He has just 8 stolen bases in 24 games this season, but he has been caught 5 or 6 times, as I realized I did not note the exact number in my sheet here. But kind of the same story as last year, single-digit stolen base totals, caught a good number of times. Regardless, I love the ceiling and the projection here. The present power maybe isn't spectacular, but I see a bigger, stronger Summerhill who hits 20-plus home runs a year, who also hits for a high average, and likely sticks in center field. And these numbers are from Jacob Maxwell over on X, formerly of Prospects Live, and these are right when Summerhill was injured a couple of weeks ago. But Brendan Summerhill was running a 90% in-zone contact rate, a 94% contact rate against fastballs at 92 miles per hour or harder, 87% contact rate against spin. If you have a chance to watch Summerhill over these final few weeks of the college season, I strongly encourage you to do so. You will be entertained. Arizona in general is a very entertaining team, but Summerhill gives me early Colton Cowser vibes in this sense. When we were watching Colton Cowser in Delmarva and when he was in Aberdeen, it was very clear that he was advanced beyond his peers when it came to knowing the strike zone and hitting what pitchers were giving him. That's Summerhill. When I watched the Arizona-West Virginia series a couple of weeks ago, Summerhill was above and beyond his peers and stood out in a major way. So outfielder Brendan Summerhill from Arizona, if he's there at 19, again, who knows how this outfield class and how the top half of the first round is going to shake out. But if Summerhill is still there, I would love for the Orioles to jump on Brendan. Number 3, we're going to go back to the SEC for number 3 on the list this month, and we're going to go to Tennessee. And Tennessee is loaded with talent, and it's easy to overlook this player when you have guys like left-handed pitcher Liam Doyle, Marcus Phillips, who I like better, Gavin Killen, Dean Curley, all these guys on the roster. It's hard to overlook, easy to overlook, I should say, Andrew Fisher. And I've become a bigger and bigger fan of Andrew Fisher as the season has progressed. He's played primarily third base early on in his career, but has seen the majority of his time at first base this season. He's a 6'1" left-handed hitter. I think every hitter I highlight today is going to be lefty. At least most of them are going to be. And I promise it's not just because this is an Orioles-focused show and I'm picking out left-handed hitters. There's just a ton of really good left-handed bats that are standing out in this class. But for Fisher, in 177 plate appearances, He's hitting .311 with a .503 on-base percentage. He has a 156 WRC+, 16 home runs, a 24% walk rate, and a 13% strikeout rate. The strikeout rate when he was a freshman at Duke was over 25%. Last year, he was at Ole Miss. That strikeout rate was 21%. So good to see the strikeout rate continue to drop. I wrote about Fisher very briefly 2 weeks ago over on our Substack in a stock up, stock down / injury update piece. And here's what I wrote about Andrew Fisher. He is, quote, on a scorched earth tour and leaving the ashes of SEC pitchers along the way. He's up to 14 home runs now with a swing designed to turn baseballs into dust, which when you watch him hit the ball, that's exactly what he does. Here's what Baseball America just wrote about Fisher last week. The Tennessee corner infielder has posted some of the most remarkable batted ball numbers in the country, offering a 94-mile-per-hour average exit velocity through April 18th and leading all D1 hitters, regardless of sample size, in barrel rate at a staggering 43%. He's the only player in the nation to eclipse the 40% threshold. Fisher's power is real and overwhelming, thunderous even, and the data emphatically backs it up. With some of the best raw juice in college baseball and a swing designed to punish mistakes, he's making as loud a statistical statement as any hitter in the country. End quote. Fisher has a max EV this year north of 113 miles per hour. He's got solid swing decisions. He hits the ball hard and in the air consistently. And in digging around as much as I can on Fisher, he has his believers that can stick at third base as a pro. I'm going to be getting a second look at Fisher this weekend when he takes on LSU. LSU has a fantastic weekend rotation. So in a massive series between number 6 and number 7 teams in the country with just a couple of weeks left to go, I'm excited to see what Fisher can do against one of the top rotations in college baseball. Go down to number 4. We're going to switch conferences. We're going to go Aiden Teal at number 4 on today's rundown, because we can't talk about the Orioles and the draft without talking about UVA bat. And it's not Henry Godbout or Henry Ford, who I've written and talked about before, but Aiden Teal. Yes, brother of now Chicago White Sox catching prospect Kyle Teal. Aiden was a two-way player early in his career, but has dropped pitching this year and has taken over center field duties for UVA while also hitting at the top of the lineup consistently. And since assuming this new role, everyday center fielder top of the lineup, Teal has been excelling both in the field and at the plate. He's a 20-year-old junior, a left-handed hitter, of course. And he's hitting .309 right now with a 120 WRC+. But again, he had a little bit of a slow start to the year. But he's got 14 doubles, 5 home runs, and a 12.4% walk rate compared to a 12.9% strikeout rate. Defensively, you might have seen his highlight reel diving catch last weekend. It was every MLB Pipeline, Baseball America. It was all over the place. But he is an above-average defender in center field, and now that he's hitting full-time, we're seeing the bat really settle in. He previewed that the bat was for real last summer in the North Woods League, which, reminder, that is a college summer league that uses wooden bats. So I do take a lot of stock into these numbers. But Teal played in 40 games in the North Woods League, hit 11 doubles with 11 home runs, an OPS of 1126. The strikeout rate was a little higher than his current 12.9% rate, but still very respectable. And I wouldn't mind betting on some more upside here with Teal. And if you want to give him a shot on the mound, he does have quality stuff, including a mid-90s fastball from the right side, pitches and throws right-handed, bats left. But he can get into the mid-90s. I think I've seen as high as 95 or 96. But if you draft Aiden Teal, you are drafting Aiden Teal, the center fielder, and you're buying into that bat for sure. Number 5 on the list. For number 5, let's talk about Auburn catcher / outfielder Ike Irish, because he's healthy again after an injury earlier this year. The bat is standing out in a big way. And in Baseball America's latest mock draft a couple of weeks ago, one of the 3 picks they had mocked to the Orioles, I can't remember if it was pick 30 or 31, it was one of the two. Regardless, they had Ike Irish going to the Orioles. The full mock was my least favorite, and I think it was a little bit lazy when it came to the Orioles selections. But to be honest, I do like Ike. And as I watch guys, some other catchers in this draft class, like Caden Bodine and his fantastic hit tool over at Coastal Carolina, Brooks Bryan, kind of a complete package over there at Troy. These are 2 high-quality bats who might be catchers. They're very good catchers in their own right, but Brian has played some outfield. Bodine played center field in high school. And so I'm wondering if there's a little bit of Ethan Anderson in their profiles and that the bats are good enough to spend big draft capital on them, and they have the ability to provide value at a couple of different positions. And would the Orioles go that route again early on in this year's draft? And not saying I would like it particularly, seeing how this draft board could potentially fall, but if the Orioles do go this route again, Ike Irish is in this mold, and he has the best bat of the three between Bodine and Brian that I mentioned. And Irish is, of course, doing this in the SEC. He's a 6'2" left-handed hitter. He's hitting .353 with a career-high 140 WRC plus right now. He's got 11 home runs, 12% walk rate, and a 16% strikeout rate. His max EV is up to 112 miles per hour. The swing decisions, again, very good. When I watched him against Georgia, he had 3 batted balls over 110 miles per hour on the weekend, plus a 107 or 108 mile per hour home run. The big knock I've seen people discuss when they're talking about Irish is his struggles to lift the ball consistently. But everything else, for the most part, is there when it comes to his batted ball profile. Defensively, I haven't been able to watch him behind the plate yet. He was just returning to play from an injury when I watched him, and he was playing right field. He looked very good. I would not have guessed that he was an injured catcher just returning to the field. He had a couple of really good plays out there in right field, showed off the athleticism and the speed. A lot of joy, a real joy to watch out there. Reports behind the plate do note that Irish is a good blocker with a strong arm, and he's had an emphasis on pitch framing this season to improve in that regard. But again, I saw a pretty solid outfielder and a guy who can play in multiple positions. I'd probably prefer one of the handful of college outfielders who will certainly be available at 30 and 31. But if Baseball America's second mock is a hit, and one of the picks is Ike Irish, I see why and I wouldn't hate it. Jacob Redner over at Baseball America recently wrote about Ike Irish, and this is what he had to say. Quote, "There are legitimate questions about whether Irish will stick behind the plate at the next level, but there are very few questions about how his bat will translate. Through April 18th, Irish ranked 6th nationally with a 96 mile per hour average exit velocity, pairing raw power with a short leveraged stroke. He's an uber aggressive hitter, but his ability to do damage even when pitchers work around him helps quiet concerns about his long-term defensive home. Whether he stays behind the dish or shifts to a corner, Irish looks like he could be a middle-of-the-order mainstay at the next level. So high praise for Auburn catcher/outfielder Ike Irish."
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
All right, need a little break there. We're back for the final 5 names on this list for this month's draft episode. And number 6, let's go down to Texas and let's talk about right-handed pitcher Rugar Riojas. I'm going to talk about a smaller school relief arm in a minute, but I'm bringing up 2 relief arms here on this top 10 list because both have real potential to be starters at the next level. And for Riojas, he's already been forced into the weekend rotation for Texas, and he has been excelling. Unfortunately, Texas's ace Jared Spencer is now out for the year as of a couple of days ago due to a shoulder injury, so Riojas has a real opportunity to be a savior for this Texas team with a strong end of the year and a strong SEC tournament performance. You hate to see injuries happen, but for Riojas, this is really a prime opportunity for him. Earlier this season, he went 5 2/3 against LSU, allowing 2 runs, striking out 6 and walking just 1. Then he went 7 shutout with no walks and 10 strikeouts against Missouri. They're a terrible team, I know, but still very impressive line. And then he had quality starts against Georgia and Kentucky right after that. So overall, the 5'11 righty, former UT San Antonio arm, has logged a total of 48 innings with a 3.33 ERA. He has a 24.4% strikeout rate and just a 6% walk rate. And those are close in line to his UTSA numbers. And to see him maintain those really solid numbers while stepping up into the SEC and being forced into the weekend rotation, that is a great sign. And despite his 5'11 frame, Riojas gets about 6.7 feet of extension. The fastball is up to 96 miles per hour, averaging about 93, with about 20 plus inches of induced vertical break. He throws it for strikes. He gets a good amount of whiff on that pitch in particular. He does have one appearance in a StatCast Park, and in that one appearance, the fastball came out at 108 stuff plus. It's a 5-pitch mix in total, with 3 of his pitches being graded out as being above average or better, including the cutter, the changeup, and the fastball. The slider is close, 100 stuff plus. Overall, MLB teams are already well aware of Riojas, but he has an opportunity again to really make a huge name for himself here if he can emerge as the new ace in Texas. This episode was recorded on Friday before this weekend's game, so again, numbers won't include any games played this weekend, but I wanted to jump back in and make this update on Riojas. Riojas got the ball on Friday night in a massive game against a surging Texas A&M team. And this is a massive series for Texas, now the top-ranked team in the country. And Riojas' final line on Friday night, 5 2/3, 3 hits, no runs, no walks, 3 Ks, 7 ground ball outs. He outdueled Texas A&M lefty Ryan Prager, who was a third-round pick of the Angels last season. Shout out to Ruger Riojas. Fantastic start in a huge game after Jared Spencer went down for the season. Number 7 on the list here, we're going to go local. Stick with a local kid here for number 7, and that is Old Dominion University left-handed pitcher Ben Moore. Moore is a 6'4 lefty who was a high-quality reliever for the Monarchs the last 2 seasons, but he is now their Friday night arm this season, and it has been a very successful transition. He has a fastball that sits around 93 to 94. He's touched 98. He also has a mid-80s slider and a low-80s changeup. And reports have noted his success in expanding his repertoire into a starter's mix this season. And he's now surpassed his career high for innings in a season, but he's not slowing down. Moore started the year with a fantastic outing against Georgia Tech. It was early in the season, and that Georgia Tech team wasn't quite the same version as it is now, which is a very good program. But still, Moore went out and allowed 1 hit and no earned runs in 4 1/3 innings with 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. And a couple of weeks ago, I highlighted Moore as one of the 7 fun mid-major arms to know for the 2025 MLB draft over on Substack. And that was right after he pitched at Harbor Park, home of the Norfolk Tides, against Troy, a premier Sunbelt opponent. And Moore looked at home at Harbor Park. He went 4 innings, gave up just 1 earned run, did not walk a single batter, and struck out 5. And walks have been high for Moore this year, but since walking none against Troy, he's thrown 11 innings with just 3 walks to 11 strikeouts. Fun fact about Ben Moore, he is from Frederick, Maryland, which is just a nice little bonus when the Orioles are able to bring in local talent. But he's from the area. He stayed sort of local, coming down to the Hampton Roads area to go to college. And I really like how his schedule sets up to end the year. ODU as a team is not having a very good season, so he won't get this extended postseason opportunity in front of more eyeballs. But he's going to close out the season here shortly by coming to my neighborhood to square off against JMU, and then he will take on Coastal Carolina in his final start. If he can come out, and this is going to hurt to say, but dominate against a struggling JMU lineup, and then show well against a very, very good Coastal Carolina lineup, all while he should be at about double his career high in innings pitched, I think that sets him up beautifully to close out the year going into the 2025 draft. And that's what I'm going to be paying special close attention to with Ben Moore as he finishes this season. Move down to number 8 here, and the other relief pitcher that I mentioned earlier. Number 8 name to know for this episode is Tulane right-handed pitcher Michael Lombardi. Probably never going to see my favorite NFL team hoist a Lombardi trophy in my lifetime, so why not watch somebody named Lombardi shove for the Baltimore Orioles? I guess that's a good consolation prize. The Orioles have dipped into the Tulane talent pool frequently over the last couple of years, as many of you are well aware of. Hudson Haskin, Colin Burns, enjoy retirement, good friend. Keegan Gillis, Please get him to Norfolk already. Haskins, a lot of these guys are also a bit unique. Haskin was a little bit unique because some hated the hitting mechanics and the setup. The Orioles were clearly bullish on him. Gillis is a bit out of the ordinary with his 6'8", 250 plus pound frame and power arm on the mound. And Lombardi stands out because he's a two-way player who pitches out of the bullpen in late innings for Tulane. But like Texas's Ruger Riojas, who I highlighted just a couple of minutes ago, Lombardi could become an intriguing starting pitching prospect for a pro team. And Joe Doyle over at FutureStarsSeries.com has referred to Lombardi this season as one of the most intriguing relief to starter prospects in the entire 2025 draft class. He's listed at 6'3", 200 pounds, and on the mound, he features a 91 to 94 mile per hour fastball that's touched 96, gets about 18 or more inches of induced vertical break. He also has a changeup and a beautiful 12 to 6 curveball that gets about 17 plus inches of break. That has been a real weapon for him. The numbers were truly unbelievable just a few weeks ago when I watched him for the first time against Rice. He has had his first blow-up outing since then. One blow-up outing as a relief pitcher across a full season, not a bad thing. But of course, it just takes one blow-up outing for a reliever to kind of skew that final stat line or the overall stat line. But looking at Lombardi, he's pitched 22 and 2/3 innings. He has a 1.59 ERA, a 47% strikeout rate, and a 12% walk rate with a 136 average against. The walk rate is high, but two things. Remember, he is a two-way player who still spends a significant amount of time on the hitting side. And second, his walk rate the last two seasons were 18.5% and 19%. So seeing a big improvement, and you do have to wonder if he would just drop hitting completely, what could he do on the mound? The K rate just stands above the rest. As a freshman, it was 20%. Last year, it was 28%. And now it sits at just an absurd 47%. The relief floor seems to be fairly strong here with Lombardi, but if a team like the Orioles believes he can be a starter, I am all for this type of project. Number 9, we're going to go back to Texas. And number 9 on the list could be a similar type of project like Lombardi or Riojas, but ultimately I don't think he is. And I think this prospect is just a high-quality relief arm who should need minimal time in the minor leagues. Of course, as long as things go right here. And that's Houston left-handed pitcher Antoine Jean. There have been reports of a number of teams being very interested in him as a senior sign with real upside. He's a 6'1" grad student who spent 2 years at Alabama, did not pitch in 2023 due to an injury, and then he spent the last 2 seasons at Houston. So yes, he is a fifth-year senior, but the numbers have been fantastic and the stuff is legitimately very good. He's made 15 relief appearances for Houston, 44 innings, so he's given the Cougars a lot of length out of the bullpen. He has a 2.84 ERA with a 1.46 FIP and a 45.5% strikeout rate. That comes with a 9.7% walk rate. Compare those numbers to his 63 innings of work last season, where he had a 5.97 ERA and just a 22% strikeout rate. He also allowed more than 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. That is down to 0.41 per 9 innings this season. I watched his outing against Oklahoma State last weekend. He went 5 innings out of the bullpen, struck out 8. He touched 95 according to the broadcast, was sitting 93 to 94. He throws that fastball more than 40% of the time, but it's the secondaries that get the big time swing and miss. He has a whiff rate north of 40% with the slider, and the whiff rate on his changeup and curveball are both currently over 60%. The curveball is the real beautiful weapon. It's got great shape, and it's a big reason for him climbing the leaderboards among strikeout leaders. In terms of K per 9, Jean is the NCAA leader in that category. Antoine Jean is striking out 16.24 batters per 9 innings, with Tennessee's Liam Doyle right behind him at 16.14, and Wake Forest's Logan Lunsford, who I highlighted in the last draft episode, sitting in third at 14.91. And 2 guys I'm going to be writing about on Tuesday over on Substack, Louisville's Patrick Forbes and LSU's Kate Anderson are both 5th and 6th on that list, respectively. But back to Jean, he may not have the super high ceiling, and he's 23 years old already. That certainly is not going to make him pop on any team's model. But if you are looking for a low-cost senior sign to be super aggressive elsewhere in the draft, while also bringing in a real talent who can move quickly through your system in a relief role, I think Antoine Jean out of Houston could be your guy. And last but not least on this episode, let's wrap up number 10, Oklahoma State outfielder Nolan Schubart. It has been a bit of a disaster of a season for Oklahoma State. They've had numerous conference games canceled completely, a couple justifiably due to extreme weather, but to not make up 4 or 5 conference games now has got to be frustrating for this program, as they're really battling their way and trying to get a spot in the Big 12 tournament. Gabe Davis, who is a 6'8" right-handed pitcher, who some outlets had as a top 30 college prospect in this year's draft class, due in some part to his 100-mile-per-hour fastball, he's just completely disappeared from the team after losing his starting job, and multiple notable injuries to impact players have dampened the mood in Oklahoma as well. But after watching them last weekend in their limited series against Houston that had their 3-game conference schedule squeezed into 1.5 games due to weather, there was some real fight among a number of draft-eligible prospects on this team. So if you see the Orioles grab anyone from Oklahoma State, I like them buying any potential dip that may come because of this bad season in Stillwater. This team is supposed to be one of the more talented teams in the entire country, but nothing has seemingly gone right for them. And a lot of it has been out of the players' control. There's, of course, the Holiday connection. Jackson Holiday's uncle is the coach out there. And the Orioles have drafted or signed their fair share of Oklahoma State players, alumni, or players who have committed to Oklahoma State. There are a couple of other guys on this roster that I wrote up last week on Substack that I like a little bit better as targets for the Orioles. But I wanted to mention Schubart here because he's a 6'5", 230-pound, you guessed it, left-handed power hitter who plays a corner outfield spot. It is 70 grade power with a max EV of 115 miles per hour, and he has shown massive power to all fields. He has a opposite field home run this year that he hit 517 feet. The average exit velos, the max exit velos, even the opposite way are thunderous. He hit 40 home runs in his first 2 years at Oklahoma State. He has just 11 so far this year, but again, it's been quite the year for the Cowboys. He's hitting .313 with a 140 WRC plus, a 21.6% walk rate, and a 26% strikeout rate. He had a 28% strikeout rate as a freshman, and it's dipped 1% each year since then, so improvement is improvement. But the issue here is the chase rate isn't that bad, but the swing and miss is very noticeable, especially the swing and miss in zone, which can get very high. But I mentioned Schubart just because I think he makes for an interesting conversation. If you know he's going to be a first base DH, should he reach the big leagues, and he's essentially Joey Gallo, 40 home runs potential, a 14-15% walk rate, but a 35+% strikeout rate, and a 210 to 215 average. But if he's there at pick 30 or 31, obviously money, other targets you have in mind, and how the board is fallen matter. But ignore all that for a moment. Do you take a batter like Schubart here at 30 or 31? Or do you pass at that point, and when you come back around in the second round, if Schubart is still there, do you bite the bullet then? I don't have a complete thought about him right now, but I do think he could make for a very fun debate to have closer to draft time. I think he's maybe just a little bit of a different type of player that we typically see the Orioles draft. So when I was watching him and I'm diving into his data a little bit more, I'm thinking, would the Orioles pull the trigger here on this type of player, especially at 30 or 31? If Schubart's there and he is projected to go in this range and this is where he's falling on your board, do the Orioles take him there? I think the defense in the outfield is kind of like, I would describe it like this. If you did not enjoy watching Anthony Santander play in right field, and if you don't enjoy watching Heston Kjerstad play in the outfield, you're probably not going to enjoy Nolan Schubart in the outfield. So I do really see him more so as first base DH should he reach the major leagues. But if he could give you 40 home run power and be in the big leagues in a year time, not as quickly as Nick Kurtz, obviously out there in Oakland, but in a year time, would you add this bat to the organization? Again, maybe bank this one later for an episode when all three of us are together and we get a little bit closer to the draft. But that will do it for draft episode number 2. Hopefully you heard a name or two you now find a little bit intriguing. Some final plugs here. Again, subscribe to our Substack. Link is in the show notes. Tons of draft articles, Orioles prospect talk as well over there. Become a patron. The link is in our show notes. We have $3, $5, and $10 tiers, and you can see all the perks over on patreon.com. We're just a couple of days away now from updating our top 50 list for the first time this season, and patrons get the updated list and a full bonus episode, the three of us coming together to discuss why we made these changes. And you also get a bonus episode every Monday morning / early afternoon, taking a deeper look at the previous week across the Orioles minor leagues, who stood out, who's struggling, why are things going well or bad for said players, and any other news that we think you need to know from the minor leagues. And join us Monday night for our main show on the free feed. The FCL season starts in a couple of days, so we have a new level of minor league baseball to talk about. And seeing how things are going at the major league level in Baltimore, I am not upset about adding another level of minor league baseball to talk about. Thank you for listening. Have a great week. See you all Monday night.